So as promised in the video title, I'm gonna start this off with the keyboard smash. Listen to this. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed those few seconds of someone raging. I mean, I get rage quite a lot, but it's not very often that I actually hear someone smashing their keyboard or controller up, so I think I'm gonna, from now on, keep track of these types of clips and maybe like one day make a mega montage or something. But anyway, back to the video, which is, what do I think about this newly buffed MG34 in Warzone? Well, overall, I was actually quite pleasantly surprised with how good it is now. So before the update, it used to suck like a lot because it had a very annoying fire delay from when you pull the trigger. And this is kind of similar to, if you've ever been in the gulag, you'll know what I mean. When you try and use the .357 Magnum, like it has that really annoying delay before it actually shoots. So before the update, the MG34 had a delay of about 317 milliseconds for when you push the trigger to when it actually starts shooting, which is just which was just like pathetically slow. You could kill someone without wearing armor in that time if you're using any other weapon. So by the time you could actually start shooting, in a lot of cases you might actually be dead. But anyways, after that, the recent update that we had not too long ago, they greatly lowered this fire delay to only about 67 milliseconds, which is just like a huge improvement, and it makes the MG34 just a lot more responsive now, and like one of the really, I'd say, a really good niche weapon to use in Warzone. So as a comparison to the other popular LMGs in the game, the PKM has a fire delay of about 50 milliseconds, and the new Bruen Mark 9 LMG has a fire delay of 0 milliseconds. So the Bruen is still going to be the most responsive LMG in Warzone, but when we look at the time to kill now with people wearing full armor and having full health, and taking account the new values of the MG34, it still comes out on top. And I'll explain why it's kind of a lot more forgiving now, and a really good weapon in my opinion. So the MG34 has a fire rate of 870 rounds per minute, and the upper torso damage is 34 rounds, 34 damage. So if we if we then measure the time to kill based on this, it has a time to kill of around 483 milliseconds. But if we combine these stats with the new updated fire delay of 67 milliseconds, the MG34 has a worse an effective fire rate. An effective time to kill. I got my words mixed up there. But it has an effective time to kill now of 550 milliseconds, because if we add that 483 milliseconds time to kill in full auto to the 67 millisecond delay, this gives us 550 milliseconds time to kill against someone with full health and 3 plates of armor. And this is very fast. And like, as an LMG, it can maintain this at quite far range. And for comparison, the M4A1 has a time to kill of 576 milliseconds, and the Grau has a time to kill of 640 milliseconds. And if we compare the MG34 to the other two top-tier LMGs, the PKM has an effective time to kill of 603 milliseconds, and the Bruen has a time to kill of 560 milliseconds. So, yeah, the MG34 is just a lot, well, it's faster than the assault rifles and a bit faster than the other two LMGs, but if we have to also keep in mind that the MG34 has the highest fire rate by far out of all these other weapons, since it has a fire rate of 870 rounds per minute compared to the M4's 833 rounds per minute and the Bruen's 750 RPM. So this makes it a lot more forgiving, since you can just spray pretty much, and the consequences of actually missing a shot have much less of an impact on your time to kill than the other LMGs and assault rifles with like the lower fire rate. So just this makes the MG34 now so good for spraying down people, but it does have some drawbacks, and obviously the major drawbacks are that it has a really crappy reload time. It just takes like forever to reload this thing, and since it's a LMG, if you're if you're caught having to reload, pretty much you're done for, and you're not going to survive that engagement unless you get really lucky and you're hiding somewhere or your teammates can cover you. And the next big drawback is that it's really, really slow to lug around. Like, it takes... first of all, the strafing speed with it is really, really terrible. So if someone is accurate at you, they can just pretty much shoot you there, and you wouldn't really be able to dodge their fire. And also, it's just quite hard to move around with this, and like, even though you can kit it up with the tac laser and all that kind of stuff to make the aim down sight speed quicker, it's still not super fast like the assault rifles. So, like, if you have to move around in buildings and stuff like that, that loss in snappiness and quickness can really be a huge drawback, which is why I think that the MG34 in general, it fits a kind of niche in the game, I think, where if you're able to like have clear line of sight on someone and they're not going to be like jumping into cover and you're not going to have to chase them or anything like that, yeah, the MG34 is then a really, really, really good strong weapon. And as you've seen in many of these clips, I'm using the truck for my mobility to get around the map, and then when I see someone and I have a clear line of sight on them, I get off my vehicle, and pretty much if there's nowhere that they can hide to and I don't have to chase them, I can kill them quite easily with the MG34 right then and there. So in those situations, I think the MG34 is just absolutely fantastic, and like very few other guns in the game can actually rival that. Even like... So the next best LMG in my opinion is the Bruen, and if we compare the MG34 to the Bruen Bruen has like... It's a lot more responsive, and you can move around quicker with the 60 round mag attachment, and like the other kind of attachments combined can make the Bruen a lot more faster and responsive than the MG34, but because the Bruen has a lower fire rate of 750 rounds per minute, the MG34 is just a lot more forgiving when you're in those situations where you have clear line of sight and you can quite easily gun down someone in the open, or if you're in cover and you don't have to move that much. Then I think the MG34 is better than the Bruen. But overall, I think I'll still lean more towards the Bruen just because it has that better mobility from the 60 round mag attachment that you can put on it, and because it doesn't have any sort of fire delay, so all that just makes the Bruen, I think, a little bit better than the MG34. But like I said, the MG34 is better in those situations where you're in cover, or where you have where you don't have to move that much and your opponent is not going to be able to hide from you. Then you can quickly gun them down, and it's just it's just a lot of fun to do that. But yeah, thanks for watching all of that. Now I'm gonna talk about my class setup for this, and as you can see, I'll quickly go over my perks and equipment, because these generally like stay the same in most of my class setups when I'm using a truck like this, or just when I'm playing in general. So I'm using the RPG since it's still really powerful and it's great for taking out vehicles. It's probably going to get a nerf soon, but until then I'm still going to use and abuse it. And for perks, I'm using EOD. I'm using EOD a lot more than Cold-Blooded nowadays, because I find that like in the late game, as the map gets smaller and smaller and smaller, the chances of getting blown up by an RPG get higher and higher and higher. So I like to use that to survive explosives, and also if I'm driving around in a vehicle, having that extra explosive survivability helps a lot if I need to get off. So I'm using Ghost as well to stay off the heartbeat sensors and UAVs, and I'm using Amped for the faster weapon swap and for faster RPG reloading. And then for equipment, I'm using C4. I use C4 all the time. It's by far the best equipment in this game because it allows you to take out vehicles so easily. And then I'm using the stun grenade as well, which I find that it's great if I need to really have a clutch moment where someone is pinning me down and I just need to get out of that situation quickly. I can stun him and find a new angle to engage. And then if I need to get a heartbeat sensor, like pretty much anyone I kill, most of them will be having a heartbeat sensor, since that's the most popular equipment in this game. But anyways, now for the actual attachments on my MG34. Now, for the first barrel slot, well, not barrel slot, muzzle slot, I'm actually using the muzzle brake, and the reason I'm using the muzzle brake is because the fire rate on this thing is really high, and it does like sway to the side quite a lot, I've found. So just to make that a lot more controllable, I'm using the muzzle brake together with the Commando foregrip, which just makes it a lot more steady, in my opinion, and it just allows me to engage people at longer ranges a lot more confidently. And then I'm using also the 100 rounds extended mags. The default 50 rounds mags is not enough at all. Like with an assault rifle, it could be good because you can reload quite quickly and the fire rate is lower, but the MG34 has such a high fire rate and such a slow reload time that if you're ever caught having to reload this thing, you're pretty much screwed. So always use the 100 rounds mag if you can. And then I'm using the tac laser as well to make this a lot to make this firstly steadier when aiming down sights, but also increase the aim down sight speed as much as I can. And lastly, I'm using the red dot sight, the GI mini reflex sight, and that's because the default iron sights on this thing are just horrible. It's like the worst iron sights of any gun in the game. So if you're using that, you pretty much won't be able to see your opponent unless they're like right up close to you. So always use so yeah, that's why I'm using the red dot sight for this. And yeah, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like what you see here and you want to see more, please subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.